The call came at 2:47 a.m., the kind that makes your heart stop before you even answer. I fumbled for my phone in the darkness, knocking over the water glass on my nightstand. "Dad," my son Michael's voice was tight with pain. "I'm in the ER, appendix ruptured." I was dressed and in my truck within 5 minutes, my hands shaking on the steering wheel as I drove through empty streets to County General. At 72 years old, I'd buried my wife, survived a heart attack, and watched my youngest daughter move across the country. But nothing prepared you for hearing your child in pain, no matter how old they were. Michael was 34, married to Jessica for 6 years, and they had 2 beautiful kids, Emma, 5, and Noah, 3. He worked construction, good honest work, but the company he'd been with for 8 years had switched to some bargain insurance plan that covered practically nothing. Jessica worked part-time at a dental office, mostly so she could be home when the kids got out of preschool. When I got to the hospital, Jessica was in the waiting room, her eyes red-rimmed. She hugged me tight. "Emergency surgery," she said. "They said it was bad, Dad, really bad." We waited together through those dark hours before dawn. The surgeon finally came out at 5:30 a.m., looking exhausted but relieved. "We got it in time," Dr. Chen said, "but it was close. Another hour and we'd be looking at sepsis, possibly worse. He'll need to stay for observation at least 3 days, maybe 5 depending on how the infection responds to antibiotics." 3 days turned into 6. Complications with the infection meant stronger antibiotics, more monitoring, more time hooked up to IVs in that sterile room. I visited every day, watching Michael wince when he tried to sit up, seeing the worry etched deeper into Jessica's face each afternoon. When they finally discharged him, the bill came to just over $47,000. Insurance covered $12,000. Jessica cried when she opened the explanation of benefits. $35,000, she whispered. "We don't have $35,000, Dad." I knew they didn't. They'd been saving for a down payment on a house, trying to get out of their cramped 2-bedroom apartment. Last I heard, they had about $8,000 in the bank. "We'll figure it out," I told her, though I didn't know how. My retirement was comfortable but modest, enough for my small house and expenses, but I didn't have that kind of money sitting around either. The hospital set them up on a payment plan, but even with that, they were looking at nearly $1,000 a month for the next 3 years. Jessica picked up extra shifts. Michael went back to work 2 weeks after surgery, still moving gingerly, still in pain. I helped where I could. I started watching Emma and Noah 3 days a week instead of 2, saving them daycare costs. I brought over groceries, cooked meals for their freezer, slipped Jessica cash when I could spare it. Then, about 6 weeks after Michael's surgery, Jessica mentioned something in passing. "My mom's planning this amazing trip to Greece," she said while we were watching the kids play in my backyard. "She's been talking about it for years, finally pulling the trigger." "That's nice," I said absently, pushing Noah on the swing. "Yeah, she invited me to come along, all expenses paid." Jessica laughed, but it sounded hollow. "Can you imagine? I can barely afford to take the kids to the park, and she wants to fly me to Greece." I looked at her then, really looked. Jessica had dark circles under her eyes that hadn't been there 2 months ago. She'd lost weight she couldn't afford to lose. Her mother, Patricia, was a real estate agent who'd done very well for herself after divorcing Jessica's father. Very well indeed. "You should go," I said, surprising myself. "When's the last time you did something for yourself?" Jessica shook her head. "We can't afford for me to take time off work, even if Mom's paying for the trip itself, and with Michael still recovering." "I'll watch the kids," I offered. "Seriously, you need a break, sweetheart." But Jessica didn't go. She thanked her mother but declined. 2 months later, I was at Michael and Jessica's apartment, helping Michael install some shelves when Jessica came home from work, looking shell-shocked. "My mom went to Greece," she said quietly. "She just got back." "That's nice," Michael said, focused on the drill in his hands. "She took Diane instead." Diane was Patricia's sister, Jessica's aunt. She posted about 200 photos on Facebook, the hotels, the restaurants, the islands. Jessica's voice cracked. She said the whole trip cost about $11,000. The drill stopped whirring. Michael turned slowly. 11,000, he repeated. Jessica nodded, tears streaming down her face. I know she didn't owe us anything. I know it was her money to spend however she wanted. But Michael almost died and we're drowning in debt, and she knew that, and she went on vacation. I felt something cold and hard settle in my chest. Over the next few days, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I tried to be fair, tried to see Patricia's side. It was her money. She'd earned it. She had no legal obligation to help. But Jessica was her daughter, her only child. I finally called Patricia myself. Frank, she said, her voice warm. How are you? How's Michael doing? He's managing, I said. Patricia, I need to talk to you about something. Of course. I took a breath. The hospital bills have been really hard on them. They're struggling, and I know it's not my business, but… Frank, she interrupted, her tone cooling. I love Jessica, but she's a grown woman. She made her choices. She chose to marry young, to have kids young, to work part-time. Those were her decisions. Michael had emergency surgery. That wasn't a choice. And they have insurance. They have payment plans. They have options, she sighed. Look, I worked hard for my money. I sacrificed for years after the divorce. I'm finally at a place where I can enjoy my life, and I'm not going to apologize for that. Jessica said the Greece trip cost $11,000. Silence. That's really none of your business, Frank. That's almost a third of what they owe the hospital. Are you seriously calling to guilt-trip me about how I spend my money? Her voice turned sharp. Did Jessica put you up to this? Jessica doesn't even know I'm calling. She'd be horrified if she knew. Then maybe you should stay out of it. Patricia, I'm 72 years old. I don't have time for games anymore. Your daughter needed help, real help, and you went on vacation instead. How dare you? I'm not done. You can do whatever you want with your money. That's your right. But don't expect Jessica to forget this. Don't expect your grandchildren to understand, when they're older, why Grandma Patricia went to Greece while their daddy was trying to work construction with an infection still healing just to pay the bills. I hung up before she could respond. That night I lay awake thinking about family, about obligations, about what we owe each other. I thought about my late wife, Sarah, who would have sold everything we owned to help our kids if they needed it. I thought about the years ahead, about Emma and Noah growing up, about what kind of people they'd become based on what they witnessed now. The next morning, I went to the bank. I cashed out a CD that was supposed to be my emergency fund, $11,000, the same amount Patricia spent on Greece. I wrote a check and drove to Michael and Jessica's apartment. Dad, what are you doing here? Michael answered the door in his work clothes, about to leave for a job site. I need to talk to both of you. Jessica came out of the bedroom, confused. When I handed her the check, she stared at it for a long moment. Dad, we can't accept this, Michael said immediately. You can and you will. It's already done. This is your emergency money, Jessica whispered. What if you need it? I looked at these two people. My son who'd worked through pain to provide for his family, my daughter-in-law who'd given up sleep and weight and peace of mind to keep things together. You are my emergency, I said. Both of you, this family, that's what the money was always for. Jessica started crying. Michael put his arm around her, his own eyes wet. We'll pay you back, he promised. No, you won't. You'll take care of those kids and each other. That's payment enough. As I drove home, I felt lighter than I had in months. Let Patricia have her Greek islands and her fancy hotels. I had something better, the knowledge that when my family needed me, I showed up. That's what grandpas do. We don't run to Greece. We run toward our kids, our grandkids, our people. And we don't look back.